Over the course of time, there are moments we simply will never forget. As we celebrate 50 years of Penn State men's volleyball, we reflect back on the legacy, tradition, and family built within this storied program.
Everything started with me and volleyball in terms of a program when 3 players that had intramural volleyball that they were playing came into my office shortly after I had retired from being assistant coach for track and field here. And they asked me if I would work with them. And I told them at that point that if they wanted a babysitter, the answer is no. But if they wanted somebody that would work with them and help them to get better, the answer is yes. And that's obviously exactly what they wanted.
1 or 2 days after we got here, we wandered over to Coach's office and asked him about playing on the volleyball team, and asked him when the tryouts started, and get the background and all that information. And we're fully expecting him to say, well, yeah, when basketball season's over, we'll start, because that's the way it worked in high school. We didn't have the gym until basketball was over. And he said, no, we're playing tonight, come on over. So we went over to the South Gym, and there were a bunch of guys, and we played pickup, and that was essentially our tryout, and we were off and running.
We had guys that came out of Haverford that started our club team, and it was just, it was the right place at the right time. And I think that helped us grow, that helped us set a foundation, and certainly in our program, that is as strong as ever. We still have those guys coming back. The original club team in 1969, this past November, presented me with the official letter from Penn State at the time granting men's volleyball club status within the university. So if that's our origination point, so be it.
It's addressed to Dan Gazdick, who was our first president and first captain. And dear Mr. Gazdick, at its meeting on November 25th, 1969, the Undergraduate Student Government Supreme Court voted to approve the charter of the Penn State Volleyball Club at the Pennsylvania State University. However, we must receive the name of your club's advisor by the beginning of winter term.
When they were granted club status, they were playing without a coach. Well, at the time, the ECVL, the East Coast Volleyball League, which later changed its name to the EIVA, that we currently play in, Penn State won, I believe, in 1973, much to the chagrin of everybody else who had a coach. So, as the story goes, the ECVL sent out a letter the next year saying to be a member of the ECVL, you had to have a coach.
And then someone as dedicated as Tom Tait came in and took it over and ran with it. And I think that made a huge difference in the fact that we're having this conversation today. And we're not talking about a club team. We're talking about a national championship caliber program.
I was not going to start with your left foot goes here, your right foot goes there, your right arm goes this way, your left arm goes that way. If you're an athlete, you're going to find ways to make things work for you as an individual, even though it might not work real well for the guy that's standing next to you. So that's what we did, and that's how we hope to grow and develop, and that was the beginning of it anyway.
As everyone knows, he took the bull by the horns and took the program and made it national. Started the women's team. That got to be a little too much, so he went out and hired some guy named Russ Rose. Who knew?
Coach Tait is a guy who would never do anything part way. Everything he did with every ounce of energy and passion that he had. And he wasn't a volleyball guy. He was a track star when he was at Maryland, a high jumper, I think. But when he was persuaded to take over as the coach of the volleyball team, a sport he really didn't know a whole lot about, he spent every waking moment that he had learning the game. and he went to clinics, and he helped put on clinics, and he read books, and everything he could do to learn the game so that he could teach it to us. He had a vision for the program. He took us, mostly at his own expense, he took us to Reno, Nevada in my freshman year to play in the USA Volleyball Adult Championships. At the time, they had a collegiate division. He entered us into that tournament. And he wanted us to see what the better teams were like and how good they were and what they could do that we couldn't do. And he had that vision that I'm not sure the rest of us had at the time. I'm not sure the rest of us had the sense that we could be as good as the teams out west, but he thought we could. And he had that vision that propelled the next generation and the next generation into the level where they did compete. And then eventually it was only a matter of time before Penn State would win a championship, and that really going from 0 to national champions in, 20 years, that's a huge accomplishment, and he gets the lion's share of the credit for that.
It was the growth of volleyball. It was Coach Tait getting out and kind of helping the high schools become even better at what they do, and bringing in the national team and the national team coaching philosophies. And all of a sudden you saw some athletes really start to develop in this state. And
so had Coach Tait ever played volleyball
He had
before?
not played volleyball before.
Wow.
Yeah. And he became, he set the standard for Eastern volleyball. To have the university that he had to work with and the guys that he had coming in from Pennsylvania that had some volleyball background, he just took it and extended it. I think the change really came in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think we were kind of the first wave of change with that 94 national championship, because on that championship team we had Carlos Ortiz, Ramon Hernandez, who was player the most valuable player of the championship that year. We had Kevin Hurricane from Pennsylvania in the middle. We had Jason Kepner, Brian Miller from Pennsylvania. We had Byron Schneider from Western New York. We had Ivan Contreras, who was Player of the Year 3 years later from Mexico. So there was this, I think there was this swing of people started to realize that great players were everywhere. They weren't located in just the pocket of, certain zip codes. And I think we were ahead of the curve here with the Nittany Lion Club and the efforts put together by those people over the course of the last 40, 50 years. And I think other schools now have done enough to say, okay, in the past where we were competing against maybe George Mason that only had 1.5 scholarships, where we had 4.5, it was pretty easy. Now that's closing the gap. Now schools are increasing budgets, not only recruiting but competitively. So more and more institutions are playing full national schedules. And then as we move through the 80s and 90s, and we do such a great job with the Nittany Lion Club and the resources that are available for all of our sports, I think that's when men's volleyball really started to pick up. When we eventually got to the point of the full 4.5 scholarship allotment allowed by the NCAA, when we could go out and all of a sudden realize that Penn State is an international icon in terms of its brand and its education. And we started to get some international guys rolling in. We had 5 Olympians representing Penn State. And when you really start to think about it, you start to think about at the Olympics, there are 16 teams that compete, 16 for the men, 16 for the women. And figure on average, just to keep the math simple, let's say there are 10 roster spots. There's probably more like 14, but I can't do the math that easy. We've got 5 of those guys at the highest point of our sport. 5. And it just speaks volumes about what this university can do and who it attracts and the opportunities they have to pursue their excellence. And you look at those guys and you just shake your head and say, 5 guys at the Olympics in our sport that shared the same court, shared the same locker room. You know, it's mind-boggling to me. That's probably one of the things that when I do get a chance to sit on my porch and watch the sun go down over the ridge in State College here, I don't know if I'm ever going to get my head wrapped around the fact that we had 5 Olympians in the same Olympics.
And you know, with Pav, you know, he was with me as a player as a freshman, and he didn't grow bigger and become a 6'8" player. The players we had coming in were very athletic, and they were bigger than anybody that we had before. As a sophomore, the program athletically had passed him by. Not in terms of knowing the game, but in athletic ability, period. And he came to me and we talked a little bit, and he became the manager, and he's one of the reasons why I was able to do more than I otherwise would have been able to. He was just enormous help. And when I found out after I left here that he was going to be the assistant coach after I left and become head coach, I could not have been any happier than I was, because I know who he is, and that's all he needed to know what he was going to do with this program.
You would never have, at that early juncture, envisioned something like this. And I think I could speak for all my teammates that we were there because we loved the game. We just loved playing the game. And I don't think that we had ambition beyond the fact that we had a chance to play, and we had good players, and we did well. But I'm sure I can speak for those same teammates that we have been as proud as we could be as the program moved forward.
I don't think there's a whole lot of Penn Staters out there that really put on airs and, you know, have this kind of mentality that we're better than anybody else. I think we're the type of student athlete that is used to hard work, that are, when you get right down to it, no matter where you come from, I think there's a blue collar root in the people that come here, the people that work here, that say, you know what, we're going to take every opportunity to achieve excellence that we can. And hopefully our program provides that as much as the rest of the university certainly does provide that.
You get a sense of being part of a program that has lasted over decades now, and being a part of something bigger than just you. And the guys in every generation of volleyball at Penn State have become lifelong friends, and that's something that I'm not sure whether that's the same in other places, but I know it's the same in the place here.
I think more than anything else, the glue and the heartbeat to this program are our alums. They're the ones that are so supportive. It's really heartwarming to see 1969 graduates walk up to a 2019 freshman and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. Have a great year this year. And to be seated at a table and to have our current players hear the stories from the former players. And as I've gone through each and every alumni banquet where this occurs, it's really interesting how those same stories change from year to year to year.
It's an enormous source of pride, and I'm sure it is for the players that have been through the program, the coaches, assistant coaches, managers, all have an enormous sense of pride, I'm sure, in what they individually have accomplished and what the program totally has accomplished. And I'm looking forward to seeing it for another 25, 35, 85 years.
As the years go by, the message continues to stay the same within the program.
I'm Frank, alias Skids, Agnew. I graduated in 1978. I had the pleasure of playing my first 2 years for the club team, and then lettering my junior and senior year for the varsity. I played in the first 2 alumni matches. I was actually on the varsity squad, but was loaned to the alumni so that they could field 6 guys. I have some great memories, like competing in national events in Reno and Schenectady, vans breaking down on the way to Army, and not cupping my block on Ruishi Furusawa, and ultimately losing to Rutgers Newark in the semis of the ECVO. It's been an honor and a privilege to play in these alumni events all these years, and I look forward to many, many more.
I'm Jim Whitler, current Secretary-Treasurer of Penn State Men's Volleyball Booster Club. I played in the early 70s, along with a bunch of other guys on the club team with nicknames. Names like Guad, Mo, LP, Skids, Munch, Honey, and, of course, Pooper, to name a few. In 1975, my Penn State volleyball career culminated with the club team traveling to Reno, Nevada to play our first ever national tournament, the USVBA National Championships, United States Volleyball Association. Let's just say we participated. That 1975 team was a pivotal team in laying the groundwork for the earning varsity status the following year.
Hey guys, Norman Kyle here. Played on the team from 1999 to 2003 as a middle blocker. Just wanted to congratulate our program on 50 tremendous years and looking forward to the next 50. We are.
Hi, I'm Finn Tuthill. My only organized volleyball was my freshman year at the Mont Alto campus, so I was definitely one of the weaker players on the club team in 70 and 71. However, I continued playing after college, where I did get some coaching. As a member of the Princeton Volleyball Club, we were New Jersey state champs in the mid-70s, so I thank all the legit club members for allowing me to hang around.
My name is Tom Gingrich. I played on the 1989, 90, 91, and 92 varsity men's volleyball teams. I had the privilege of playing in 3 Final Four championships. I brought a few trophies to show you. Here's a 1989 third place finish at UCLA. Here's a 1991 fourth place finish in Honolulu, Hawaii. And here is the 1992 third place finish, Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. So what does Penn State volleyball mean to me? I can answer that question with 3 words: character, leadership, and community. Reputation is what people think we are. Character is who we truly are. I can say that the Penn State men's volleyball team instilled in me the traits necessary of someone with high character: honesty, integrity, responsibility, just to name a few. Penn State men's volleyball also helped to develop me into the leader that I am today. It taught me how to inspire people to believe that they're part of something bigger than just themselves. And finally, Penn State men's volleyball taught me about the importance of community. For anybody who's a Penn Stater, the phrase "we are" is at the heart of our values. It tells us that together we can work towards the betterment of our program, the university, the communities in which we serve, as well as the world. As the owner of an insurance agency in the small town of New Bern, North Carolina, I have the opportunity to be involved in my community. I also have the privilege of doing mission trips annually to the poverty-stricken country of Haiti. I can tell you firsthand that the skills that I've developed through a member of the Penn State men's volleyball team were making a difference. My employees are better, my community is better, and the world is better. "We are" is a special phrase reserved for special people, and we have the opportunity to share in that together for the rest of our lives. We are Penn State.
Penn State men's volleyball. 50 years of a legacy tradition, and a family.